Well, the Jays' somewhat disappointing first half of the season is reflected in the current odds on FanDuel. As you can see, the odds to win the American League East have lengthened, the odds to win the American League have lengthened, win the World Series have lengthened, and even the win total adjusted to 88.5 after opening the season at 91.5. And we are joined now by TSN baseball insider Steve Phillips to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays. Steve, I think the biggest disappointment is pretty obvious because you don't often see someone who's a Cy Young candidate one season demoted to the minors the next season in Alek Manoah. So let's focus on the positive. A first-half performance from this team, Steve, that stood out to you above the rest.
Yeah, really, I think you take a look at it. I think Bo Bichette, for me, is the guy that really emerged. He's got a chance to lead the American League in hits for the third straight year. He's leading right now, having a phenomenal season, hitting close to 320. And he's been the one consistent force offensively for this team day in and day out. Now, they need Vladdy to get it going, but Bichette has stepped up. And for him, when you look at the market for what shortstops are bringing home with money, he's emerging as really one of the top shortstops in all of baseball right now. And so the Jays should certainly be proud to have him. He's putting up a big season. On the pitching side, certainly Jose Barrios has stepped up. After a down year last year, they put him back together. Pete Walker, the pitching coach, has done a great job getting him back on track again. And really, it's somewhat protected the impact of how poorly Alek Manoah has pitched because Barrios and Kikuchi have both been pretty good.
Now, Jordan Romano got to go to the All-Star game, but for his troubles, he pitches 5 pitches and then has to come out of the game with back tightness. So obviously, Jays fans are concerned. There's no current update. But, Steve, looking at the bullpen as it stands right now, does this team have enough to hold on until Romano potentially returns?
Yeah, so Romano is one of the best closers in baseball. He's an elite closer. He's a guy I'd love to have there in the postseason to get it done. Eric Swanson has been fantastic this year. Now, Yimi Garcia has not been nearly as good this season, but Nate Pearson has stepped up a bit. We've had Meza has been phenomenal in the bullpen. They do need to supplement the pen a little bit at the trade deadline. That has to be an area of focus for them to bring in another quality reliever so day in, day out they have the depth there, and it protects for Romano, where I don't think this is going to be anything major. It's a lot of flying going back and forth across the country. The Seattle flight's a long flight, so I'm not too concerned about it. But I do think they need to have some depth and protection there and that ability to have balance in the bullpen. Ideally, I'd love to have a left-handed reliever added to that pen to go with Meza.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. We know the deadline's approaching, Steve. They might only have enough trade chips for maybe one big piece, and I'm assuming you feel that should be an arm over a bat.
Well, it should be an arm. Yeah, I think so. This offense should be enough. If Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can continue what he had going into the All-Star break, coming out of it, I think everybody else steps up their production when he's there. When he's that aircraft carrier, everybody else is going to get strikes because they don't want to face him with runners on base. So they're going to attack everybody in front of him. Then he's going to get on base. Guys behind him are going to drive and run. So the offense, I think, is going to take care of itself. It really is the pitching. Now, I would rather than to get one impact starter or one impact reliever, I'll take a tier down and get a starter and a reliever and try to use my core of talent at the minor league level in that way so that I'm not just putting all my eggs in one basket. I don't know what Manoah is going to be, so I want to at least get a decent starting pitcher to protect the depth there and an impact reliever as well. Doesn't have to be a closer, just somebody who's a good, solid 7th inning, 8th inning guy. I'd rather go mid-level for 2 pitchers rather than an impact for 1.
Steve, we look at the AL East, the Rays, the class of the division right now. Baltimore really coming on strong. They look so good. This is not an easy division to win, but how important is it to win it given the disaster of the wild card last year for the Blue Jays?
Well, but that is the Blue Jays story, but I think you have to look at the Philadelphia Phillies story. They were the number 3 wild card in the National League last year. It went all the way to the World Series. So I don't know that because if the Blue Jays say it's win the division or bust, then what? Then you're a wild card team and you think you don't have a chance to win. I think you chase certainly the Tampa Bay Rays and the Orioles in front of you. Try to get the highest seed that you can, but get to the postseason and then just win those series. They're good enough with enough depth to be able to do that, even if they need to pitch their better starting pitching in the last couple games of the season. If Jose Barrios is starting game 1 or Chris Bassett is starting game 1 of a wild card series, they're in a good spot. And so I don't think they can put all their eggs in the basket to win the division because it's going to be really tough to come back and do that. Yeah. Just get to the postseason and then win the tournament.
Before the season started, Steve, you came on our show. You were very gracious, and we asked you for a World Series pick, and you picked the Blue Jays over the Atlanta Braves. Now, the Braves are looking fantastic. That is a great pick. I'm willing to give you a mulligan, Steve Phillips, if you want to pick a different American League representative other than the Blue Jays, or do you maybe want to stick with Toronto?
That's so generous of you, Jay, to give me that. And I want to golf with you so I can get some mulligans maybe while we're out golfing. I'm not taking the mulligan. I'll save it for golf. I'm still believing that this team can do it. I'm actually believing they're going to do it from the wild card spots as well. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think there's enough there for this team to make a run in the postseason. When they get hot, the offense is churning, and the starting pitching is what it can be. They can beat the best teams in the American League. I'm sticking with the Blue Jays.
I love it. I love that optimism, and I hope Jays fans like it too. The Jays resume their season on Friday. They'll be hosting their old pals, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Gabe Moreno, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Steve Phillips, thanks for this.